Welcome everyone, and thank you to coming to today's Lunch and Learn organised by the North Cumbria Integrated Care Trust and CLIC, the Cumbria Learning and Improvement Collaborative. It's good to see you all here today. My name is Richard Laurie and I work for the Knowledge and Library Service in the North Cumbria Trust, and it's my special pleasure to welcome Ellen Buckley today, who's the Children's Service Manager for Barnardo's, who's giving our session on LINK Social Prescribing for Children and Young People.
So just a bit about me. So I'm, as Richard says, the Children's Service Manager, managing a service in Cumbria called the LINK service, which is Barnardo's Children and Young People Social Prescribing Service. We've been operational since September 2020, and we actually work across 3 primary care networks, as it says there, which is Keswick and Solway, Longtown and Brampton, and Penrith and Eden primary care networks. We spent a good 18 months developing the service with the primary care networks. There was Ashley, the clinical director in Eden, that was very instrumental, and also Richard, the clinical director for Keswick and Solway, who approached Barnardo's as being a host. What they identified is that potentially Barnardo's, because we've worked with children and young people for over 150 years and developed services in Cumbria, would we be interested in supporting this development alongside the primary care networks, which we were delighted to do so. The staff actually started on the 23rd of March, day of lockdown, 2 days induction, and then we didn't see each other for 8 months. So it's not the ideal when you're trying to introduce a brand new service that is the first in the country for Barnardo's and the first in the county, but we managed it. So LINK, as the name is, was created by young people, the branding, the name, and the offer. So we work very much with young people all the way through this and continue to do so. So they support children and young people aged 5 to 19, and it's quite a wide age remit, but that was identified by the GPs that they wanted to reach out for a whole range of young people in primary and secondary schools. And we actually take referrals both from schools, health leads and GPs across those areas. So we have a steering group made up of a wide range of representatives, and they've been instrumental in shaping, developing, working through what the needs are, especially during COVID and where we are now with around COVID. So how children and young people are managing. The makeup of the service is myself as an administrative service manager. We have a senior practitioner and 4 link workers across the patch. We have service administrator and we have a volunteer coordinator, which is really great because then we're capacity building in our communities, and we've currently got 11 active volunteers within the area who do work at the end of the work that they've done with the practitioners, but also offer group work offered as well. And we do currently have an independent evaluator, Nicola Lynch from Lynchpin, based in Cockermouth, who's just done our first year evaluation, which should be out by the end of May. What's been really exciting for us, as it says there, I'm a winner, is we were recently awarded the best children and young people social prescribing service in the UK, which said that we're quite only 18 months old. It was a major achievement. They particularly liked the outcomes and the impact that we're having across children and young people and the variety of how we work. So if you want to go to the next slide, please. So this is just a bit more about the service and how it works. And fundamentally, one of our core values within this, as it is with all our services from Barnardo's, is the voice of the child is paramount, and they shape and design. So constant feedback, but also we have a number of co-facilitated projects of work where young people lead the work that we do. So LINK is co-produced at every stage with young people, continuing to co-production. And also we have managed to create a new co-production group called Curious Youth, which again they named, which is an LGBTQ plus group, lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans and questioning. And that was because we really identified early doors that a number of young people were struggling to identify where they fit in the world and in Cumbria, and maybe questioning their sexuality or their identity. And there wasn't a lot of services for them. We linked with Pink in the north, in Carlisle, but if we're thinking of Appleby or Longtown, some children are really struggling. So we identified a support group, but they're also going to be doing training with parents and carers and other professionals around looking at pronouns and identity and what it means to be a young person in today's society. As it says there, since we've launched, we've had a total of 376 referrals, and that's till the 13th, so last week. Now, bearing in mind we've only 5 practitioners, and that's quite high. We were inundated early doors, which no surprise with COVID, but new for us. And the challenge, I think, with social prescribing is, particularly again through COVID, was there wasn't a lot of places to socially prescribe onto, because a lot of activities, if you think of uniform groups or youth provisions, were not available to be open. So a lot of kids suffered with identity, isolation, loss, bereavement, stress, anxiety, worrying about school, worrying about going back to school. There's a whole raft of reasons why young people referred to the service. We offer now a variety of service, so we do one-to-one work with a link worker, but we also do group work, and we've done that virtually, but we also do that face-to-face as well. We're doing community drop-ins. We're currently in libraries, such as we're in Penrith Library, I think the Spatria Library, and we're looking at a venue in Longtown at the moment, in Brampton. And we do school wellbeing drop-ins, so we're at William Howard, we're at Appleby, we're at Ullswater, we're at Beacon Hill, and we're doing those very much on it every week, just to help those young people, like a 6 to 8 week session, whatever they're trying to deal with. And the other element that we do is a coordinating role. So many times we get a referral in from a GP, particularly, might say they're needing support, but it might need an early help. So then we'd link with places like Family Action or 0 to 19 Barnardo's in Eden, or they might be looking at an assessment, whether around autism or something around eating disorder. So sometimes we offer a coordinating role, which I know GPs and others really struggle to do that on top of everything else that they're trying to do. But we also work across the whole family. So sometimes it might be parents that are struggling. We offer looking at grants to help them. So we've had grants to help children like join brownies and get brownie uniforms, or take part in an activity that maybe around something they're interested in, anything they're good at. So we try and bring monies into the service as well. If you do the next slide, please. So we've been really successful, I feel, as a brand new service, a lot of learning, but there's a lot of passion and interest. Our team's made up of social workers, youth workers, early years workers, health workers. So we have a wide range, which I think brings great strength to the teams, and lots of people have different strengths and all knowledge and understanding, which we pull on greatly. What we've just been doing now is something called Seesaw, which is child-centred, strength-based, system focused and outcomes informed, and that's the model there, which I can send further information on if anyone would be interested. This is based on services that are run in the Northern Ireland that Barnardo's work with and support, and they are evidence-based and they're in journals regarding this as a model of working. So it's very much putting the child in the driving seat, and so we work with what their needs are. We do goal setting. We monitor every session we do, so we know what's working for them, what's not. Work with the whole systems around them and where it needs strengthening. And we do a report at the end for each child and young person, that they have their own goals and the journey they've been on. And that's just started as part of our development this year. We're also developing links across the integrated care in North Cumbria and the North East. So we've just been fortunate to, as it says below, secure a Barnardo's Foundation bid of nearly £500,000 to develop this service over the next 3 years, but also look at this as something we'd like to run across the whole country. So we're doing something called codification, looking at what works, So if there's any PCNs or anything anywhere would like to be interested in looking at these posts and having Barnardo's host, so we offer clinical supervision, we offer training, we do all the recruitment, we do all the supervisions, line management, we do all the case management process, we do payroll, we do everything. But they draw down what is the R's funding for these posts, but Barnardo's are offering all this additional support, and we'd like to expand this across some other areas over the next 3 years, and we have the funding to do an independent national evaluation over 3 years as well, so we're quite excited of this. We'd also like to work with local charities, so they on the ground have funding to support that work with children, young people, whether it's around green space, whether it's around forest schools, whether it's around positive activities. So as we say, we're keen on developing this across other primary care networks because we think we've got a really good model. We're getting some national recognition. I think the MPs have just put us forward, Trudy, for the MP awards, and we've just been shortlisted for the Employer of the Year for Link Workers. So hopefully we may be successful in being a winner for that. So yeah, I suppose we're trying to look at models of best practice and making it work, and feedback from GPs and others are saying they really see the value of offering a social model and not just a medical model for children and young people that present to them in the surgeries. So I think that's the end of my slides. I don't know if there's any comments or questions. I've just given a couple of resources there. So that was a social prescribing academy thriving communities webinar where we talked a bit more and gave more examples of what we do, how we do, what are our outcomes and impact. And then the one below that is information around the CSO and the workforce development that Barnardo's are running across all their emotional health and wellbeing services. And we also have a link, an Instagram account, which anyone can follow, and that gives regular updates, feedback Fridays, and young people explaining what impact it's had, and parent and carers, etc. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Ellen. So yeah, we do have one question. Are you linked with something called North East and North Cumbria Children's Health and Wellbeing Network?
I am. Only recently we met with someone called Michelle and then Emma. I don't know the surnames off my head, and they put me through in touch with them. So I think there is a meeting in a couple of weeks, I think, that I'm hoping to join as part of that work. Friday the 20th of May at 9:30. So if that's the correct one, I think that's where I'm linked up in, because I think that's where we want to be as part of the ICS and the networks, and looking at health and places and health inequalities and where this fits with the new ICS going forward. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thanks. And yes, Susan would also be interested to know how you operate your sessions in schools, and is there any difference between primary and secondary?
Yeah, we do. I mean, everything from primary and secondary is different. We particularly last year we really linked in with the transition, because a lot of children didn't have the opportunity to for the transitions like they would normally, particularly with the primaries, into the secondaries, and not in having, face-to-face sessions in the secondary. So there's a lot of anxiety. What we do is we look at what the needs are, and then we work out a framework for those 6 to 8 sessions based on the assessments of each individual young person. So it might be about looking around sleep, it might be around things like decider skills and looking at coping mechanisms, looking at where their strengths are and how they apply those into areas when they're worried. Or a lot of kids have been worried about parents going and catching COVID, frontline practitioners, except particularly like A&E staff. So it's working with those children around that. So we very much work around their chronological age, developmental age, and also their issues and needs, and try and match that together. But we're always trying to base it on the best practice of what's out there. We try and go for evidence-based practice where we can.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. And Zena says, sounds like a great model. And have you linked with the children's occupational therapy teams across the county, as it sounds like the services complement each other?
I don't think we have. So if you have a contact, that would be lovely. We did have a referral from an occupational therapist way back when we identified a young person who was 16 who'd come up from the south that was living on a farm and was struggling and were just isolated. And they actually came through there, which was fantastic that we found that young person. So yeah, if there is somebody that we can link with, we're more than happy to do a talk or a chat or a staff conversation for 10 minutes if there were a staff meeting, just to get the message out there.
Oh, that's great. I've got the email address just been posted, so I'll make sure we put you in touch after this, because yeah, the follow-up question to that was any idea when you might be able to roll out the service across other primary care networks in Cumbria, and what areas are showing interest?
Yeah, I would love to. I know we initially got interest from Copeland, but I think they went with having a practitioner in the surgeries and doing that through tasking and through EMIS. But we're keen. I mean, I'm keen on like Carlisle, if there were any interest in there. Like I say, I think we've got a model, we've got some evidence now, we've got a first year evaluation nearly ready, we've got some more funding to try and roll some of this out if there's commitment from other PCNs. So we're going to put a bit of a document together to send out, and Tracy said she'd give us some names just to see if anybody wanted a bit of an opportunity to have a chat with us, see if this is something they're interested in. There is a little bit of management charge, obviously, because things, not everything you can fund through your hours, but, we do offer a quality service. So I would hope some people were interested in maybe thinking about this model as opposed to having just a practitioner in the surgeries. So yeah, if anyone's interested in a follow-up conversation, particularly if they're linked with some of the other PCNs, I'm really happy, because I think if we get across the board, we're not geographically postcode lottery. So for example, Longtown and Brampton and William Howard, a lot of kids live in Carlisle and are in those different practices and surgeries. So that's a bit of a challenge for us, and we don't want it to be no, and we don't say no, but I'm conscious that it's Longtown and Brampton surgeries that are funding these posts. So we do really want to reach out further.
Yeah, so the aim going forward, you would be sort of thinking about the south of the county.
Yeah, definitely the south. Yeah, I mean, we have My Time and we have MHST mental health support teams in the south, and we also and Morecambe Bay. So we had a little bit of interest down there, and again, that would be perfect because the need is so great as well.
Yeah. And then Susan says it's great to hear how this is being co-produced with children and young people. So, the question she has is, how do parents feedback to you, and have you got responses that you can share ahead of the evaluation?
Yeah, if you go onto our LINK Instagram page, we have a lot of feedback from parent and carers, because we welcome that opportunity. A lot will say you're the first to come out and listen and actually work with us, particularly during COVID. We didn't stop seeing children face to face. We did a lot of walk and talk. We don't sit in a clinic, we're out and about. We work with where a child wants to be to do what they need to do. Some of them will do painting and draw and paint, a lake scene, if that's their safe place, or do some camera work or whatever's needed, some creative arts. But yeah, if you follow us on LINK on Instagram, if anyone's got that, we also do an infographic every quarter to our PCNs, which gives all the details of our impact outcomes. What I'm happy to do, we've just done it for this last year, we're just pulling the last year together. If it would be helpful to send that to yourself, Richard, then you could share that, just as showing where that feedback from children, young people, professionals that have referred in, just gives you a bit more of that 360 view.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Thanks, Ellen. I'll be happy to share that. Yeah, if anybody would like any of this, just get in touch with us, pop your email address into the chat, and we'll make sure that's forwarded on. Obviously it's early days, but I know you said you'd had 376 referrals since September 2020. it sounds like you've had a mix of referrals. Is there any particular trends you can see emerging, or any?
Yeah, I think depending on the where we are in COVID land, like I say, we've never existed outside, so it wasn't what we planned, but nor was it for anybody else either. I think particularly in the more rural areas, which is obvious, but around isolation and a sense of not being connected to other services, and like we transport children from those areas to Pink to the youth club each week, because that's the need. We find particularly young men have come through around suicide support, in the sense of it being around worrying about feeling lost and sense of identity and where they fit in the world. So young lads have especially come through with that, and not knowing how to express emotion and ways of just feeling okay. We've had quite a high number of young boys to the service, which I'm really pleased about, because it's not got any stereotype or connotations like it's girls only. It's very much across the board. And when young people are presenting that to GPs, I've been really pleased that young people have managed to come together and reach out. We've got 6 men working as far as the mentor service at the moment, the volunteers. So I'm really keen that we continue that. So we've got good role models across the board for men and young women. We have issues around self-harm, whether that be eating disorder, low level, worrying about their identity and what they look like. Very much around stress around their education. Will they get the grades? Obviously, the last 2 years it's been not through exams, so people worrying about going to a university, not going to university, not getting in at college. Kids just worrying about going back to school, not wanting to go to school. A lot of school refusers. We say, because we take referrals from schools, we found that we get there as earlier upstream as possible. So sometimes when they get to the GP, they're already having a lot of difficulties. So it was great that we could actually try and find the children in the schools who are struggling, and also those that don't attend. So we might do an alternative curriculum provision and support them.
Yeah, that's great. And I suppose this a sort of a slightly unfair question. I was wondering about, what do you predict any future trends? Is there anything you can see on the horizon you think is going to become an issue? As I say, I know that's an unfair question in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think the children questioning their identity and sexuality is going to grow, because I think now we've set up a lot of co-production work. Like we took to Pride last year, we had 12 staff at Pride, and we had in Carlisle, and we took 15 young people from across the county to that. That was the first time they said they felt like they belonged anywhere. So that was really positive. And I think we'll see more of that, because we actually know there's a greater need. So we want to do more on that, and maybe set more youth provisions up on that. So I think the more you reach out, the more you're going to find. So that's definitely a gap that needs filling in Cumbria, in my opinion. And then suicide support. So we managed to get 98,500 from NHS charities together, Captain Sir Tom Moore's funding, to work with children in the West who have been affected by suicide, particularly parental suicide. So we're just appointing a post now for group work, and also a toolkit for schools, working with Every Life Matters. So I think when we see a gap, we look for opportunities to find the funding to do something about it.
Thank you very much for that, Ellen. It's really interesting, and I think we'll just touch the tip of a much bigger iceberg there in all the sort of things that you work with. So yeah, it's been fantastic to hear. Thank you.